It is 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started with the meeting. We're going to have, is she here yet? Should we get her? Michaela Recio. She's going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. There she is. Thank you, Michaela.
One of our cheerleaders.
Yeah. Whenever you're ready. Yes, ma'am.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
See, it wasn't too bad. Great job, thank you. Okay, next we have the board mission statement, Mrs. Boone.
Through high expectations and equitable opportunity, TMISD will focus on the whole child by providing a safe environment and high-quality curriculum with diverse and enriching experiences.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any public comment? Okay, we'll move on to the recognitions.
Mr. President and Board, will you join me? We have some stars, both student and teaching, and administration that we want to recognize tonight. Mr. Alvarado, some of these kids are yours. And of course, this lady needs no introduction. Mrs. Pratt, will you come and brag about your students?
Oh, I'd love to. I have about 10 of the 18 students that qualified for nationals this November at the Texas State Thespian Festival. The Texas State Thespian Festival has about 15,000 students now that compete in 2 different areas. And these students are some of our wonderful nationally recognized students that are going to go compete this summer, hopefully, in Indiana. And 3 of them actually made absolute perfect scores from all 3 judges, and a couple others were within 1 point of receiving that as well. So we are very proud of them, and we look forward to them accomplishing a lot this summer in Indiana. So, do you want me to go ahead and do their certificates?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And if you'll go, when you get your certificate, if you'll go around and shake hands with the board. Parents, we're making some memories tonight, so we'll take all the time we need, put us where you want us, and we'll go from there, okay? No, you're not, we don't get to do this as often as we'd like, and we want to take advantage of it. These are our stars.
All right, the first one, Thespian National Qualifier in Solo Musical, Anna Boone.
Okay, let's get a photo. Right here. Can you get the board in? Miss Pratt?
It's a lot. She's got to move back further. Okay. All right, thank you.
You'll stand over there and get a group picture.
And next up, Bailey Cáceres in duet acting.
Let's get a picture. Got it? Great. You wanna-
And Bailey's partner, Isabella Arce in duet acting.
You wanna come over here and get a picture? Well done.
And next, Ayla Erkenbrock in Solo Musical.
Thank you. Awesome job.
Thank you.
Let's get a picture. Come on, Miss Pratt.
Maybe.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And next up, also in Solo Musical, Michaela Racia.
Can I get Mr. Alvarado on here too?
Absolutely.
Of course. All of it, okay.
Huh? Oh, hold on. Gosh. And I'll can I get you one in here?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
All of it, go for it. No, that's what it's for.
We got all-
Thank you.
And next up, with a national qualifier in costume design and a perfect score from all three judges. And main stage callback, Eva Salinas.
I'm trying to get everybody. 1, 2, 3.
And next up, also a main stage callback, perfect scores from all three judges in duet acting. Her partner's not here today, but Michaela Wong.
Thank you. Congratulations. Great job.
Mr. Cho, can you take a picture?
Someone take one, my parents aren't here. That's sad.
We'll get it to you.
Thank you.
And then, let's make it a little bit closer. Oh, too close, too close, too close. There we go. All right, gotcha.
Congratulations.
And next up, in duet acting, and her partner is also not here tonight, she's over, trying out for drill team, but Julia Adams.
Mine.
Here we go.
I like this angle over here. Sorry. Can you see everybody? See everybody.
You can take more
We
than one.
can move over too,
Yeah.
if you
We'll
want.
take lots. Okay, cool.
Just be careful with that Zoom. I got like
I,
real close to
right, I can't see what it looks like anyway, so it's fine.
Congratulations.
And next up, we had a group of students that qualified in group acting. Two of them were able to be here tonight. We have others that are obviously at Harvard competing. We have students that, they're involved in
Everywhere.
multiple things. So today we have two of them. First up, Fernando Pina.
Take a picture.
Someone take a picture, please?
Iris?
Right over here, so I don't see Mr. Gonzalez and Mr. Rodriguez.
Well done.
And another from our group acting is Joanna Smidgen.
That one's mine.
There you go.
And we have a few others that qualified. The other one that made perfect scores, Rolando Gabriel Arias. He made perfect scores in set design. And we have some others that were in group acting, Sean Andrews and Noel Alanis. And Ari Esquivel, who's at Harvard. Alyssa was, of course, Michaela Wong's partner. And we have several others that I'm trying to think of everybody's name off the top of my head. We had Adeline Alvarado, who qualified in solo musical as well. So we had the largest group that we've ever had, and we're very proud of them. So thank you so much for letting us share that. Come on up for a group picture. Shorter people in front. Fernando, you know where you stand. Move in a little bit. There you go.
You're gonna want us to squeeze in, I think.
Brad Bakery, Miss Pratt.
Where am I looking?
The only camera. Oh my god, okay.
You're good.
Sorry. Actually, like, one of them.
Makes me look really tall. going.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Thank you all.
One more, that way.
Oh my god.
I can't even see you.
Okay.
Thank you.
No move, I gotta take one.
All right, sorry, come on, you are too tall. Here we go.
1, 2, and 3. Great job. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
One more.
There we go.
Congratulations, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you guys. I know.
What is that solo music?
What is it? Running music. Thank you.
Here we go. So what did Miss Love do?
You're good.
He's from the history of wrong guys. Abby did kindergarten boyfriend. It's kind of a funny one from Heather's musical. So they all had different ones. It was kind of a mix of different ones.
So some music.
Yeah, it's like you kind of find one that really suits. So usually we go through a few different takes until we get the right one.
Congratulations
They have to
again.
act it out, sing it, block it, all of it, yeah. Yeah, we're here.
Thank you.
Now I need to email Miss Gray again and tell her.
Turn the camera this way, so the thing.
Hi, how are you?
Like that.
Mr. Joey, you want to come in?
Sure. Yeah, just like that, and then another.
Okay.
Do you want to be
We are here tonight to recognize Ms. Stephanie Ochoa for National Board Certification. National Board Certification is a voluntary advanced professional certification for pre-K-12 educators that identifies teaching expertise through a performance-based, peer-reviewed assessment. Get this, only 125,000 teachers nationwide have achieved board certification, and you're one of them. The certification process is designed to collect standards-based evidence of accomplished practice. To become a board-certified teacher, eligible candidates must demonstrate advanced knowledge, skills, and practice in their individual certification area by completing 4 components: content knowledge, differentiation and instruction, teaching practice, and learning environment, effective and reflective practitioner. This also qualifies Ms. Ochoa to be recognized as the Teacher Incentive Allotment, and she will receive a significant stipend from the state of Texas for the next 5 years.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations and thank you.
Let's get a picture, Ms. Ochoa, and can you say a few words on the process and why you volunteered to do this ordeal?
It's gonna sound silly, but when I found out about it, I found out that when you do it, you get money for your school. So I was like, all right, let's do this. And
That's awesome.
so I did it to get money for the high school.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I don't know, I come from a long line of teachers, so we just kind of, it's just what we do. You're in it for the teachers, you're not in it for the money, but if I can get something that'll help the school out, I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Wonderful.
So that's,
Thank you.
That
Yes,
speaks
very,
volumes.
very special person.
Let's see if we can get a picture of Ms. Ochoa.
okay.
Mr. Alvarado, you want to join us since she's one of your teachers?
We could squeeze in just a little bit more. I'm almost said bye.
There we go.
1, 2, and 3. Got it.
Congratulations.
Big congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now we have the first time in my career as either a principal or a superintendent, I've never had an employee recognized and appointed as a gubernatorial appointee to anything. And our highest priority, as you know, is the safety of these kids and our staff. And she is appointed by Governor Abbott to the Texas Safety Center Board, Ms. Nydia De La Certa.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
We call her DLC.
DLC.
DLC, and can you tell us about what you're going to be doing and
Well, the Texas School Safety Board provides training, guidance, and support to Texas public schools and junior colleges on school safety. So that's what I'll be helping with.
can we get your family up here to take a picture with your beautiful family? You're missing one?
Yes, he's at
Okay.
UTSA.
Okay. I know your husband's very involved in veterans work. Hazel, thank you for what you do, sir. Let's get a
Yes, one of those is 7th.
Okay, he's the player.
Yes.
My nephew's Aaron. My nephew's
get
Aaron.
over by the board.
I've seen you.
Chrissy, can you?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw him in the basketball court too, yeah.
There we go. 1, 2, and 3. Got it.
Really proud.
Awesome job.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Nydia, can I just
Thank
have you
you.
and your family? Just the
Thank you
family
very
one?
much.
Yes.
Just the family.
Just grab- Yeah, just the family one?
Good idea. Just a family. And DLC, thanks for the tile. Love
You're
it.
welcome. You're welcome. It's a great looking family.
Isn't it?
It's a picture of
Missing their oldest son. No, he's at UTSA.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. The board will convene in closed meeting as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act to discuss items allowed by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.072 and 551.071. We have now reconvened from closed session. Move on to our action items.
Mr. President, members of the board, the administration recommends that the board approve the resolution as presented.
Leo? Okay.
Leo,
I'm gonna have to read.
Yes.
To read it first?
yes. The motion. I have to read the whole. You have that?
Oh, this part?
Yes.
Okay, in its entirety?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I make a motion,
Yeah.
discuss and consider a resolution declaring the public
No,
use.
no, not that one.
Not that
Red,
one.
red,
Oh, the red.
red.
Oh, the red, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's
I'm
mine.
sorry.
Okay. I make a motion, or I move the Pelosi Midway Independent School District authorize the use of the power of eminent domain to acquire the surface only of a tract of land more accurately described as 1,742,400 square feet, more or less, out of the surface estate of a tract of 869.348 acres of land known as Tract 5, 52 Farm, described in a deed to Brenham Ranches LLC, as recorded in a document number 2009-000322 official public record, Nueces County, Texas, being out of the Artemis R. Roberts subdivision, a map of which is recorded in Volume 3, page 41 of the map of records of Nueces County, Texas, and more accurately depicted in Exhibit 1A or A1 and A2 of the resolution for the public purpose of constructing a junior high school and educational-related facility.
All right, do we have, Leo made the motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Leo motion, Mr. Chapa second. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0.
Now
Okay,
the fun part.
now I gotta read. Thank God I went to Tulosa Midway.
There you go.
A resolution declaring the public use and necessity to acquire the surface only of a tract of land more accurately described as 1,742,400 square feet, more or less, out of the surface estate of a tract of 869.348 acres of land known as Tract 5, 52 Farm, described in a deed to Brayman Ranches LLC as recorded in document number 20090000322, official public records, Nueces County, Texas, being out of the Artemis R. Roberts subdivision, a map of which is recorded in volume 3, page 41 of the map records of Nueces County, Texas, and more accurately depicted in Exhibit A1 and A2 for the purpose of constructing a junior high school and educational-related facilities, authorizing administration to negotiate with the owners for the acquisition of said parcel for purchase at its market value established by the state-certified real estate appraiser, and further authorizing legal counsel to initiate condemnation proceedings to acquire said parcel if administration is unable to acquire due to inability to agree to the purchase price, conflict of ownership, owner refusal to sell, and/or inability to locate a lister owner. Whereas Tulosa Midway Independent School District is an independent school district as defined under Section 11.155 of the Texas Education Code, and whereas the district has a statutory duty to provide adequate educational facilities to meet the needs of its growing student population and ensure access to high-quality public education. And whereas the construction of a new junior high school is essential to fulfilling the district's statutory obligations by alleviating overcrowding, enhancing educational opportunities, and accommodating future enrollment growth for the provision of education services to the community. And whereas the construction and development of the new junior high requires the acquisition of property to ensure sufficient space for instructional facilities, safe transportation access, and necessary infrastructure improvements. And whereas in order to develop and construct a junior high school, it is necessary and appropriate for the district to acquire a 40-acre surface-only tract of land, more or less, out of the surface estate of a tract of 869.348 acres of land known as Tract 5, described in a deed to Brayman Ranches LLC as recorded in document number 20090000322, official public records, Nueces County, Texas, being out of the Artemis R. Roberts subdivision, a map of which is recorded in volume 3, page 41 of the map records of Nueces County, Texas. Now therefore be it resolved by Tulosa Midway Independent School District Board of Trustees that it does hereby find and declare that there is a public necessity to acquire a 40-acre surface-only tract, more or less, out of the surface estate of a tract of 869.348 acres of land known as Tract 5, described in a deed to Brayman Ranches LLC as recorded in document number 20090000322, official public records, Nueces County, Texas, being out of the Artemis R. Roberts subdivision, a map of which is recorded in volume 3, page 41 of the map records of Nueces County, Texas, most accurately described in attached Exhibit A1 and Exhibit A2. It authorizes administration to negotiate with the owner for the acquisition of said parcel by purchasing at a market value to be established by a state-certified real estate appraiser. It further authorizes the district's legal counsel to initiate condemnation proceedings to acquire said land if administration is unable to acquire through negotiations due to inability to agree to a purchase price, conflict of ownership, owner refusal to sell, and/or inability to locate the listed owner. This resolution shall become effective upon passage thereof. And then we do the poll here.
We've already done it.
Okay, yep, so passed and approved by the Board of Trustees on this 17th day of February 2025.
There you go.
Thank you, everyone. So the next item, go back to my agenda here. Discuss and consider approval of financial audit.
This week. Number 3.
Number 3?
Yes, you're right. Financial audit.
Okay, that's right.
Discuss and consider approval of financial audit for year ending 2024.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes, we have our auditors here, Keisha Kimberly. We go over, I emailed the PDF on Thursday. They'll have the bound copy in front of you. And I'm gonna turn it over to Michael Keishnick, our auditor.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening.
Sorry I couldn't put you first.
No, that's okay, I appreciate it.
Pay them by the hour.
I understand, no problem. Well, it's a pleasure to be back as Wilson Midway ISD, and I'm pleased to present you all the very fine financial audit. We've issued an unmodified opinion, which is the very best opinion you can receive on a set of financials. It's a clean report. I plan to be brief, but if anybody has any questions, please let me know. We can stop and talk about them. If you've got your bound copy, I'm gonna start on page 2. This is our independent auditor's report. And the second paragraph I'll read to you. And it states, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the Wilson Midway Independent School District as of August 31, 2024, and respective changes in financial position and where applicable cash flows thereof for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This is our opinion, it's a clean opinion, it's unmodified. Now if you turn to page 17, Exhibit A1, every school district in Texas is required to present 2 types of financials. The first being a for-profit business type presentation, which is A1 and B1. And the second set is a fund financial basis of accounting, which will be C1 and C2. We'll get to those in a second. So Exhibit A1 is your statement of net position, your balance sheet on the for-profit type basis. Your total assets ended up being $133,627,833. Deferred outflows of resources, $10,447,630. Liabilities, $111,018,196. Deferred inflows of resources, $12,171,67. That left you with a total net position to end the year August 31, 2024 of $20,887,100. Pages 18 and 19, Exhibit B1. This is your statement of activities on the government-wide for-profit type basis. Your total expenses for the year was $56,773,119. Those expenses were offset by 2 types of program revenues, the first being charges for services of $1,305,064. Operating grants and contributions, $3,013,348. Then you drop down the bottom section of these pages, and you have general revenues. These would include your property tax collection, state foundation monies. Those total $49,733,734. All that together, you had a change in net position. A decrease is $2,720,973 for the year. You began at $23,608,073. Come back to the ending net position of $20,887,100. Those are your government-wide financials. Now we'll jump over to page 20 and 21, Exhibit C1. This is your balance sheet on the fund basis of accounting. These are your governmental funds. You've got several funds presented here. I'll only go over the general fund for you as it's your main operating fund of the district. Your total assets in the general fund was $10,834,999. Total liabilities, $589,592. Deferred inflows of resources, 422,710. That left you with the ending fund balance in your general fund of 9,822,697. Pages 23 and 24, Exhibit C2, your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances for your governmental funds. Again, several funds are presented, but I'll focus only on the general fund for you. Your total revenues in that general fund were $39,300,528. Total expenditures, $42,839,527. You have some transfers ins and out between the funds. So you got a decrease in fund balance in your general fund of $3,510,563. You begin the year at $13,333,260, and you come back to the ending fund balance in your general fund August 31, 2024 of $9,822,697. Do you have any questions? There's much more to the report. A couple more letters from us, some more detail in the back, notes to financial statements. The letters from us are also unmodified in the back of the report. Clean opinions, overall, just on it. And just want to thank Mr. Carroll, Ms. Aldana for all their help and efforts in getting these audits done every year. They get tougher and tougher to do, more layers to go through, and they always stay on top of things. We appreciate all the help that they do in bringing the report to you all, so thank you.
Any questions? Comments? All right.
Mr. President, members of the board, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the Tolosa Midway Independent School District financial audit fiscal year ending 2024 as presented.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
You have a second? I put Brian down as making the motion. You want a second? All right. All right, all those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. All right, next action item.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. Discuss and consider renewal of district property liability, auto, and windstorm insurance.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes, we have Chase Carlisle here from Carlisle Insurance. He's our broker that goes out to get our coverage for us, and he's here. Initially, I sent you all the thing on Thursday that kind of had the different options and talked about, and I just picked the middle one, which was, the additions that we've made. We've added turf to the fields and everything, so that's what I initially put in the recommendation. But we're going to talk about those different options, and I guess I'll turn it over to Mr. Carlisle just to kind of talk about where we are and how we got here.
Sure. Good evening. Excited to be here this evening. For the first time in a number of years, we get to talk about some significant pricing decreases, so that's exciting. Our process, just so everybody's aware, starts about 3 to 4 months out prior to your expiration, which is a March 1st renewal date. We come out, meet with administration, tell them what we're seeing in the market. When we talk about property insurance, we really got to think globally here, not locally. It's not like buying our homeowners insurance or something of that nature where we're insuring, about $250 million of building and contents assets. So we do approach the entire global market on your behalf. We're independent brokers, so we're not committed to a Hartford or a Travelers or anybody such as that nature. We access all the domestic markets as well as the global markets, Lloyd's of London, those types of carriers. Property insurance is very cyclical. The rates are driven, primarily by natural disasters. For the last 7 to 9 years, we've been in a pretty heavy loss scenario. The global disasters affected the market quite a bit. Beginning probably about February, March of last year, we started to see signs that the market was starting to soften. When we go through these hard markets, rates are coming up, the insurers are pulling out. They don't want to write insurance on coastal communities such as ours, so it leaves us with fewer options. Simple principles of supply and demand. We've got a supply higher than we've ever seen. A demand higher than we've ever seen with supplier of insurers less that drives the pricing up. What we've seen in the last 12 months is the natural disasters, for whatever reason, have started to slow down. We had 2 hurricanes in the United States last year. The one that went up through North Carolina was pretty significant. However, a lot of that was uninsured losses or insured flood losses through the National Flood Insurance Program. So it didn't really affect the the market where we talk about windstorm markets here. And then the one that went into Tampa wasn't as bad as we thought it was gonna be. So we've gotten to a situation where the pricing has got so high, the insurance carriers that have pulled out have now jumped back in. Typical insurance companies, they want to be in when it's good, and when you get out when it's bad, right? So they're getting back in, and it's creating a competitive atmosphere in the market where we're able to pin carriers against each other to help drive these rates down. The feedback we shared with the administration around Thanksgiving of last year was we were expecting 10 to 15% rate reductions on the March 1st renewals. So as we sit here this evening, if we did nothing, we didn't change any deductible structures, limits, or anything of that nature, that would be option one. It did represent a slight increase in our valuations of our buildings and contents, about 6%. But if we did nothing, the rate decrease for Tolosa Midway would be a 20% reduction in rate to the district this year, which again is something we have not been able to talk about for a while. If you took option one, it's about $347,000 reduction into your total expenditures, which represent a 14% total cost decrease. The difference between that 20% rating decrease and the 14% cost increase is that 6% jump in our valuations of our buildings and contents assets. If we took option two, that's an increased limits option, buying a little bit more coverage on some of the athletic stuff that Mr. Carroll's discussed earlier, turf, some additions to the press box, those types of items. That would be a $331,000 reduction and a 13% cost decrease. Option three.
Can y'all pull the options up, because they are not in our board, but remember they were separate when they got emailed out, and so we're not seeing that right now. I think it would just help.
Thank you.
It was in our board book, but it's not here. We'll be able to follow you a little bit easier.
Yeah, that'd be great. Y'all can all read that, right?
I'm gonna look this way. I'm not being rude to you, but I can see better this way.
That's fine. So again, the far left column is expiring. This is what we had last year, right? So we were insuring 234 million of assets. We were buying $50 million of coverage. The option one is, again, like I said, just an adjustment of the current buildings and assets of a 6% increase. Construction inflationary issues type deal is how we get to the 249. Same thing, the yellow items are different from last year. So we do have a different deductible structure, but it's in the district's favor, and I'll explain why. Wind and hail, we have a 1% per location last year with 3% per location on named storm for hurricane and tropical storms. The difference, and it's the same all the way across, is we have the same percentages, but instead of a per location deductible, now we have a per building deductible. Why is that important? So the per location deductible, they would have taken the entire campus or the entire location. We usually like to talk about the high school location because it's the largest values there. May have multiple buildings, gyms, school, portables, that type of stuff. If we had a loss to one of the buildings, they were gonna add up all the values at that location and apply the 1 or 3% to that, and that would have been your deductible, pretty substantial deductible. This year, we were able to negotiate a per building deductible, meaning they're only gonna apply the 1 or the 3% to the building that's affected or damaged. So it reduces the district's risk and deductible to fund balance. So that's all that is in the yellow. Option two, again, is an increased limit. That's the one I was just explaining, had the newer athletic equipment, not equipment, but assets built into there, and that's how we got from 234 to 251. Again, same structure, deductibles, everything's the same. Still buying the $50 million worth of coverage. Option three would be removing anything that we do not consider essential facilities to operate the district. So I think I was back, I don't remember, that was August, September, we were back here, we're talking about some different options to consider. One of those was to consider just ensuring the district's essential operational facilities, so the school buildings, the educational facilities, food service, those types of things, but stripping the policy and removing all the athletic and outdoor property effectively, playgrounds, lights, stadiums, turf, all that kind of stuff, and just ensure what we consider essential operational facilities. Sounds like, something that wouldn't be very popular, but at the end of the day, when we're trying to fit our numbers and meet budgets, it is an option to consider that, again, our goal here at Tolosa is to educate the children in the community, right? The athletic stuff's a benefit from being a student here. God forbid something happened and we had to play football games, maybe Saturday morning or something like that, because we didn't have light poles, it probably wouldn't be the end of the world. Of course, I say that, I'm not a high school football player. But an option 4 would be maintaining the same increased coverage limits of 251 million, but instead of buying 50 million of coverage on all that, we would drop down and buy 25 million of coverage, and we would also increase our named storm deductible to 5%. So I always like to talk worst case scenario. What does the 3%, what does the 5% look like in the event of a Cat 3, 4, or 5 hurricane in the coastal community? For reference, a 3% deductible on 251 million would be a $7.5 million deductible to the district. If we go from the 3 to the 5, now we're looking at a $12.6 million deductible. So it's a substantial increase in your deductible and your exposure to your fund balance should we have some type of hurricane activity. But if you look at the bottom, if we could go to the bottom. There's substantial savings by doing these things, right? So these are the premiums and all kind of highlights. Last year we paid 2.5 million. If we kept the same structure, increased our value 6%, same.
Wrong thing, sorry.
That's right. Same deductible structure. Again, that's how we get the $347,000 savings. We jump over here, that would be increasing to $252 million of coverage, same deductible. Now we're at 2.2, which represents about a $331,000 savings. This is the option where we go over and we say, hey, we're gonna insure the essential operational facilities only. Drops it from 2.5 million to a little over 2 million. Now we're talking $503,000 of savings. And then if we maintain the same limits of 251 million, but bought 25 million of coverage instead of the 50 million, and went to that $12.5 million deductible, now we're talking we're saving close to $800,000.
We obviously can't look at the last option. It's cost prohibitive because we don't have a fund balance
They can cover it.
to cover the deductible. Initially, Philip and I made the recommendation in your board book for option 2. We've had a little change of heart because of the hit that we just took from the audit of a $3 million hit for the 23-24 school year. We're anticipating around a 40 to 50% drop in the deficit for this current school year, 24-25, because of the 4950 positions that were not funded in 24-25, this current school year, than last year. I don't think we can afford anything that doesn't have a significant decrease. And I think that it's a gamble. We've invested $11 million in athletic facilities. The coverage that he and I are going to recommend would not cover our press box. It would not cover our any of our 3 scoreboards. But it would cover all of our schools. We could still play games on the turf. I think that the main objective to Tolosa Midway is to have school, and our schools would be covered, but we would see a significant decrease of over $500,000 over a 2 budget cycle. $250,000 in one budget year and $250,000 in another budget year. If we weren't in a deficit budget, this wouldn't be our recommendation. And Mr. Carroll, can you add, are you?
That pretty much sums everything up. I mean, like I'm not a football coach, but if we had to play the games in the morning because we didn't have lights, it would be unfortunate. But we're talking about obviously something catastrophic has happened, but we're protecting our main assets, which are the instructional.
The natatorium would be covered because it's educational.
So we had to take a gamble last year too. We had to lower what we covered last year, the amount that we covered. are we gaining anything back what are we gaining back this year? If we go with what they're talking about?
Option 3.
I think my biggest, what's hard to swallow as a taxpayer is we're talking about not covering facilities that we haven't paid for yet and that we just built. So as a taxpayer, that's a concern of mine.
Yeah. We've
As
paid
a
for
board
football.
trustee, I understand what y'all are saying also. So I'm definitely torn
Yes.
between both of them. But if you could explain going from last year's policy to what they're recommending, so that we as trustees know exactly what we're gaining.
Yes,
The, Mr. Boone, the football improvements, with the exception of the press box, has been paid for. Because we paid fund balance for the track, the turf, and the scoreboard. What we haven't paid for is the $5 million in Proposition C from the November 23 bond that was the turf for softball and baseball, scoreboards, and tennis.
And I know you said we're saving $500,000, and that's a year or over 2 cycles, but
Yes.
really from one option to the other, we're saving about $170,000.
Between,
Between 2 and 3.
Or
Right.
between 2 and.
Right,
Yes.
but that's what we're saying, right?
Yes,
So you're saying instead of the $2,200,000, we're at $2,029,000, correct?
that's correct.
I'm kind of like Kim, I mean, I know we're in a deficit, I don't want to get desperate, because, okay, you say we don't have lights, how long do we not have lights for? Then we got to go to the fund balance and pay for lights, and we're not going to play without lights forever, right? We made the investment, I feel like we should protect the investment, and keep things nice, keep things covered, just my opinion. It's, because if we save $170,000, and we do have something happen, and we lose the press box, we lose the lights, and all the fields.
And the scoreboard.
And the scoreboards, well, yeah, we saved $170,000, but we're gonna have to get that back eventually. Our kids can't play under Saturdays all the time, and so I'm of the opinion, I like the fact that 2 saves us, close to 300,000. That's a big chunk of change, that's a great job by you guys doing the homework. But I just don't wanna get, in my opinion, I don't wanna get greedy, for lack of a better term, to try and save another 170,000 and not, when we talk about the investments we make, and then you gotta protect the investments, you gotta invest in the investments so that in 10 years, we don't have crappy facilities.
Yeah, I mean, if you kind of look at, like Mr. Gonzalez said, you're saving 100,000 between the two, but you're giving up $21 million of coverage to save 170,000.
Not only that, I think those are the most vulnerable pieces. I mean, those
Things that are gonna blow away.
scoreboards probably be the first things to go in a heavy wind. So there's a likelihood, if in the event that
Yeah,
something.
and I mean,
happens.
everybody's risk tolerance is different, right? And it's hard when there's, 6 or 7 of us up here, because everybody has different risk tolerances. For reference, like you go to Kingsville, Kingsville's got about $200 million of assets, and they only buy $15 million in coverage, total district-wide. But that's where it says, hey, that's all we can afford, that's all we're gonna buy, and it is what it is, and if something happens, we're gonna have to rely on FEMA, but again, FEMA's a 3 to 5 to 6 year process. It just depends on your risk tolerance at the end of the day.
So how much is this gonna, like, if we go with protecting everything, where's it gonna put us in the budget?
We
You know,
can't
like-
protect everything.
No, I would recommend B,
He's saying.
it's gonna save us $330,000, the deficit's 3.2 instead of 3.5, right? Like,
Well, like you split it, it'll help.
Yeah,
this-
but I
it'll
mean,
help
in
this
basic
budget year,
math, yeah.
150,000 and change. and
They're
it'll-
all gonna save us some money, because we're getting,
Right,
that's the thing, we're lower, like, if we were going up, we'd have some real hard decisions to make. Right now, we're going down,
Yeah.
so that's where I stand, like, I don't wanna get desperate and try to go too far down and stick our neck out there, and then something happens, God forbid, and
We love our facility.
yeah, and I mean, we sold the community, we were gonna have great facilities, they bought in, and if we buy a new car and we don't get insurance on it, that's It's not a good, in my opinion, that's not a
We're one
good decision.
hurricane season away from all those things happening. Press
Yeah.
box down.
Yes,
scoreboard down.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Mr. Carlisle, let me ask you, I know on the auto, it says actual cash value. On the property, is it replacement cost? I mean, that's what it is, or?
Replacement costs.
Okay. And we value that, how do we value that property?
That's a very good question. Most of the time, schools, the values that we look at of what each building's listed for is usually what it cost at the time you built it. So over the last 10 years or so, we've tried to take baby steps to get us to where we need to be. But if you look at the actual schedule of insurance and we have a price per square foot of what it would pay to replace the facilities, it's half of what it would actually cost.
Okay.
So you can take, and I'll have it in front of me, but maybe, I don't know if it's in their packet, but like the high school is probably at about 260 foot, $260 per foot. It's $450 to $500 today to build those schools. So we're already kind of not buying enough coverage to start with. Would the high school be a total loss? Probably not. I mean, a fire maybe, or if fire takes down half and the city comes in and says, hey, the rest of it's not stable, you gotta tear it down and rebuild it, that's a bad situation to be in. A hurricane is never usually a total loss unless a tornado or something spins off, but usually hurricanes, yes, we're gonna lose our roof, yes, we're gonna have some interior water damage, but we should still have our structure for the most part. So I feel okay about that. The fire is the part that usually scares us. But that's not isolated to y'all's district by any means, that's districts across Texas.
I don't think there's too many districts that can really ensure the full replacement value of all their facilities.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's like not possible.
Yeah, I don't think too many Americans do that. But, so, I mean, any other questions, suggestions?
Okay?
Yeah. So do we, because in here it says option 3.
I'm gonna do option 2.
Okay.
I think there's consensus among the board for me
Okay.
to make the recommendation. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
I do want to thank you all for doing exactly what the board continues to ask you to do, and that's to save the district money. So we do appreciate that. I do.
It's a team effort, I tell you, and a great board. Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended the board approve the continuation of the district's property casualty and educators' legal liability insurance coverage at the stated premium rates totaling $2,200,694, option 2 as presented for the coverage period of March 1st, 2025 to March 1st, 2026.
Okay, we have a motion? I'll make a motion. Dale? We have a second?
I'll second that.
Kim? All right, all those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. The next one we have here is
Thanks.
bond, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Bond Phase 2 presentation, Victor Quiroga.
This is the fun part. We have Victor and Lauren. I think 4 is information and 5 is a action item. I don't know if you want to combine both or we'll see. We'll do presentation only and then we'll do the action item. For those of you that are new and haven't met Mr. Quiroga, he has been the financial advisor for Tolosa Midway ISD for several years. He and I have worked together at other districts, and quite frankly, he's the best in the business. So having said that, Victor, it's your...
Now you set the bar too high. Honorable President, members of the board, Mr. Matrix, thank you for having me here this evening. See a lot of new faces here, so congratulations on coming on the board. As Mr. Matrix said, my name is Victor Quiroga. I'm a specialized public finance. I've had the honor of representing the district as your bond financial advisor since about 2010. I think Philip and I started about the same time back then. But we're here today to talk about the next steps in continuing the funding that the voters allowed you to issue on their behalf from the November 2023 bond program. So we prepared a very brief presentation here for you, and we have a handout additionally on the screen here. But if you go to the first page after the cover sheet, as I talked about earlier, we're going to talk about the continuation of accessing funding for the November 23 bond program. We're going to talk about a financing plan for this current fiscal year and on the steps needed to move forward, the goals of how much we want to access this year. And on the theme, Ms. Boom, of saving money, we also have an opportunity to refinance some old bonds as well for interest cost savings. About $400,000 is what the hope for is. So after the first page, we go to the second page. This is just an overview of the district's outstanding debt. This is your voter authorized bonds, or the bonds and the debt that we use the interest and sinking fund tax rate to repay. We can only use that tax rate when we have voter authorization. So right now we have about 7 bond issues outstanding before we move forward with the new bond issuances, and it's about $75 million in principal outstanding currently. And this is a mix of refinancing bonds that we conducted before and also the new money bonds that we issued last year related to the 23 bond program. All your bonds currently are rated AAA. That's the highest, safest rating you can get under municipal bonds, which means we can get your taxpayers the best interest rate possible when we had that rating. The chart that you see below there, that's your annual principal and interest payments for all of your debt outstanding. As you can see there, there's a little dip there in years 2, 3, and 4. That's on purpose because we know we still have more bonds to issue, so we left those gaps in there to be able to issue it and try to mitigate that tax impact as much as possible. So if you go to the next page, on page 3, this is just an overview of the November 2023 bond program. The voters allowed us to issue on their behalf $164,625,000, and that was separated over 3 propositions. Obviously, Proposition A, which is the more instructional proposition, is the largest bulk of it. What we told the voters when we approached them was that if you allow us to issue these bonds on your behalf, we believe that the total bond package and the tax increase related to cover that bond package was 13.28 cents increase per $100 valuation. If you go to the next page, just want to show you the funding update where we're at currently. Last year, we accessed $45 million of the total bond authorization that we received. We funded the natatorium and also the athletic projects. And when I say funded, we mean that we delivered those funds to you. That's not to say that those projects are complete. Of the 151 from the Proposition A, we accessed $32.2 million. So what remains is primarily Proposition 1, a little over $119 million is what we have authorized but unissued, meaning we have not accessed that, we've not sold that at this point. Our goal for this year, this fiscal year, ladies and gentlemen, is to try to access as much as we can of the $119 million, so long as we're within that 13-cent threshold that we promised the taxpayers when we asked them for their approval for this. And so if you go to the next page, as I indicated earlier, we plan to access as much as we can of the $119 million, so long as we're still within that tax rate threshold we promised the voters. In addition to that, there's an opportunity to possibly refinance about $7.245 million of existing debt. When we refinance bonds like we've done in the past, all we're going to do is we're going to switch a high interest rate for a low interest rate. We're still going to pay the bonds as originally scheduled. We're not going to extend the repayment term. We're only generating the savings by changing a high interest rate for a low interest rate. Right now, based off of our conservative figures, we're hoping to save your taxpayers about $400,000 just by that refinancing alone. So we'll see when we get closer to when we lock in the interest rate, and hopefully we're still there in the money to be able to do that. Based off of this plan, we first want to get your preliminary values in the door in late April. You typically get that before we go into the bond market. We want to get an indication as to what the property values that we're going to work with for next fiscal year, so that when we issue the bonds, we feel a little bit more confident that we're going to be within that threshold or increase that we told the taxpayers. Also with me here is Lauren Ferrero. She's the one that prepared the agenda item, I think agenda item number 5, and also prepared the bond order that you're considering this evening. So we're on the last page here, and I don't want to monopolize the presentation, so I'll go ahead and let Lauren let you know the action item that you're going to be considering soon.
Good evening, my name is Lauren Ferrero, as Victor said, and I serve as the district's bond counsel. I've had the honor of working with the superintendent and the CFO for a couple of years now, and we really feel blessed to be able to help deliver these proceeds for each of the members of not only the school, but as well as the community as well. So what we're proposing to adopt today is a special order, not one that the district has seen in the past. So due to the fact that the district could potentially, upon your approval, exceed $100 million in outstanding bonds, this puts you into a new category of issuer of school districts, is what we call issuers of debt. And what that means is that you get special dispensation to adopt this order and then therefore go out into the market at a time that's going to be most beneficial not only to the districts, but also to your taxpayers. Generally in the past, which I think several of the board members have seen, we price bonds on, let's say, a Tuesday. We are forced to come and sell those bonds that Tuesday as well. So if something catastrophic in the market happened that were outside of the district's control, there's nothing we can do about it. With the parameter order that you're going to be adopting tonight, you have the ability to adopt the order, then based upon Mr. Carroll and also Victor's recommendation, you go out into the market and sell at a time that's going to be most advantageous, meaning you know what's going on, you can get the lowest interest rate and deliver the best type of bonds for the district. So that's the difference in what you've approved in the past and what you've approved today. So there's obviously certain controls that are going to be set forth in this order. One of those is that this order is only good for 1 year, meaning if you adopt today, the district has to sell the bonds within the next 12 months, and that's a requirement of the Texas Attorney General. Also, as a board member, you're probably concerned about, can they just go and sell anything? And no, that's not the case. What you're doing is delegating both to your superintendent and the CFO the ability to meet these parameters that we've set. Meaning, as Victor has set forth in his presentation, you cannot exceed the par amount that's set forth in the order, which for the new money bonds is $119 million, and for the refunding bonds is $7.2 million approximately. And you have to generate a certain level of savings, which market conditions generally dictate 3% to be a good amount of savings. So that's your minimum thresholds that you would be potentially adopting. Any questions? I hope I didn't monopolize your time either.
Let me ask you this, is there any arbitrage concerns based on the actions of the board with acquiring land for the most significant project and having the money?
In terms of arbitrage related to your bonds?
The savings, the interest savings with the IRS?
So generally, what Victor does is he works with an arbitrage consultant for the district, and I believe that they have one here.
We haven't yet, but we will.
Yes, and so what he's asking is sometimes the IRS requires if you earn too much money on your bonds, you have to remit a certain payment back to them. And that's generally looked at from a 5-year period. So what the district will do is engage an arbitrage consultant who will calculate the amount of earnings and determine whether or not you owe that. And it's generally done on a 5-year period. So you look back 5 years, so about 3 years, getting up to that 5-year date, you'll start to look at with the rebate consultant, look and calculate and see if you owe anything. So as of right now, I don't believe that the district owes anything, but that's something that you will monitor.
But in theory, I think what you're trying to say, but in theory is, if we get the lower the interest rate that the people that are purchasing the bonds, to what they're gonna get paid, which is gonna save us money, we want the interest rate to be lower. The lower that is, then that means there's a less impact of what we would owe back. Or there could, it just depends upon, it's a really complex computation. But it's the IRS saying, well, these people are earning interest, but it's tax-free to them. They don't have to pay income tax on the revenue that they get from these tax-free bonds. And so the IRS wants us to maybe give the money back, because we're sitting on the money and investing it and earning in their opinion, they're saying they want to recap what they're losing by selling these tax-free bonds to these people. So if you look at, if you think about the relationship is, if the bonds are less, that they're earning less income that they don't have to pay taxes on, the impact would be a little less to us as far as arbitrage, because they're not losing as much money because the rate is lower. But that helps us too.
And hopefully, we're gonna be spending it.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds and everything, but basically just to put it in perspective, when we issue the 30-year bonds and borrow the new money and say we get to borrow $119 million, the interest rate that we're going to get on that 30-year bond is going to be a fixed interest rate and likely going to be, let's just say, for example purposes, 4.2%. Right now, the district is able to invest that in your investment pools on a short-term basis because you're going to get all that money at once at an interest rate higher than that, probably let's just say 4.4 for example purposes. So there's a difference of 0.2% there. That 0.2% is what we may or may not owe the federal government 5 years later. The good news is that we're able to keep up to that 4.2 in the investment earnings that we have. So this might be an opportunity to, I know you all have not finalized the land purchase yet, but this might be an opportunity to maybe try to enhance some of your project earnings while you're investing that and you have it in hand. The only advice that we have is that once you get the money, the IRS wants you to spend the bulk of it within 3 years after you receive it. So if you receive it June 2025,
We'll be fine.
yeah, so this might be a good opportunity to maybe issue a little bit more, so long as we're still in that tax-free threshold, to try to invest a little bit more, enhance our project, because unfortunately, you know, if you haven't locked up the land, inflation still is going to continue a little bit on your project. So might be a good hedge on that inflation, because now you're actually earning money while you have it in-house. Does that make sense? I know there's a lot of arbitrage talk. That arbitrage word always scares me.
Victor, you know the broader aspect of public school than I do. Are we still in a position where we have relatively low debt compared to our neighbors?
Yes, you do, yes. And you know, what's helpful is, you know, your top taxpayer accounts for a large portion of it and pays for a large portion of it, but your tax rate is still manageable. Once we issue this debt, you're not going to be anywhere near the cap that the state has and how much debt you could have as a school district. And so there's school districts that are nearby here that are already at the cap and been at the cap for a long time. You all have been very prudent and conservative with your bond planning, and so we're not anywhere near that at that time, so we're not concerned about that. Our goal is to try to get into the market in May, because it was a pretty rough election cycle in November. A lot of them failed, and a lot of those districts are going to try to come back in May, and so we're trying to beat that rush in the bonds if those bonds pass in May, and so us issuing in about May timeframe will hopefully beat that rush, and we're still going to be able to get you a good interest rate for your bond issue.
Thank you. Questions? This is a great opportunity for Delosa Midway ISD, thanks to our voters.
Okay, so the number 4 was presentation only, so number 5 I'll read, you've already presented, right? So I'll just read the.
Yes.
Discuss and consider an order authorizing the issuance of one or more series of the district's unlimited tax school building and refunding bonds in the approximate amount of $126,870,000, levying an ad valorem tax for the payment thereof, delegating the authority to district staff to approve and execute related documents and other matters in connection therewith.
Mr. President, members of the board, the administration recommends the approval of the district's bond order authorizing the issuance of one or more series of the district's unlimited tax school building and refunding bonds in the approximate amount of $126,870, levying an ad valorem tax for the payment thereof, delegating the authority to district staff to approve and execute related documents and other matters in connection therewith.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Do I need to read this motion? No. Can you make a motion, Leo? All right, second.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Carried 6-0.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you all.
We'll get to work and get you all a good rate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next one is discuss and consider first reading of TM Parent Code of Conduct.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is a trustee's request, and I failed to put the other parent code of conduct in your packet. You have, once I pass this out, you'll have two examples, and they're very similar, with the exception of one has a dress code type, and another one has an administrative consequence. We discussed this July, August, Mr. Gonzalez? And this would be, you can take one or the other, you can amend it. This is first reading. You can do basically whatever.
Oh, this is the one that wasn't in the board book?
That's correct. And
Okay.
it's very similar, except for appropriate dress. And there's another section on authority of school personnel. Otherwise, they're very similar.
Okay.
Any questions, discussion?
You can give me direction on if you want to add the two components and have it exactly like, I believe, the West Osa one. If you want to redact, it's your policy, and we'll follow your direction.
Just curious, how long have they had this in place?
I do not know.
I'm just wondering if they've encountered
Any
major,
pushback?
major concerns. I mean, just curious.
No other discussion?
This is just, I mean, this.
This is just for-
What we will need, Mr. Gonzalez, is for a direction on which document you want to approve, if any, on first reading. And then, because it won't be anything other than first reading. The action item will be next month. And what I can do is, if you want me to have a conversation with West Oso about how long they've had this policy, and if they've had any heartburn from it, I can certainly do that between now and when we bring it back.
I mean, if we have any suggested alterations, does it have to be in the boardroom? It could be via email?
You
or-
can send it to me, and we can put it in second reading.
Yeah, I'd like to compare both of them.
Absolutely. It's just first reading tonight, there's no vote. It gives you an opportunity to do what you need to do. I think Mr. Chapa wants me to communicate, and I'll put that in the connections. Okay,
Sounds good.
all right.
All right. Next item is report algebra for all 8th grade students.
Mr. President, members of the board, we are concerned with our math data across the district. And so we are not just going to sit by idly. We're going to do whatever we can in collaboration with our campuses, our teachers, our administration. This is a very innovative type program that, quite frankly, I had to be sold on. But we're still doing our homework. Why are you laughing, Kenneth?
You call me out.
But, you know, I'm convinced with data, and I think this does what I think we need to do, which is raise standards, raise expectations. but provide resources in order to accomplish what we want. So I've asked Dr. Sham, who's over our CNI, and Ms. Arias, our middle school principal, and then Mr. Alvarado. If I'm a high school principal, which I was, and the superintendent's telling me, okay, in a year, the only people that are going to be taking the Algebra 1 end-of-course test at your campus are going to be retesters. I would be really, really worried about accountability at that campus. But Mr. Alvarado does what's best for kids. And he is really not operating under the premises of, well, what, me, my campus, it's what's best for kids. And I've never seen a middle school and a high school principal work as collaboratively as what we have here at TM. And then when you throw how they work with ACC, it's an unbelievable group of secondary people that I have, and I'm so proud of them. So having said that, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. I will do the presentation, but if we have any specific questions, I do have my other team, Arias and Alvarado, so they'll be more than happy to extend any questions that you might have. So Algebra for all 8th graders, this is something that I think we're really excited about because this is an opportunity, like Mr. Van Matry said, to really raise the bar for our students. And there's a lot of benefits by having our students take algebra in 8th grade. So I'm going to kind of start from there. So let's begin with the strategic goal that this is tied to. This is tied to strategic goal number 1, which states that 90% of our students will have met the standards in TMISD student readiness profile when we're looking at academics. And so this is very, very much aligned to that because we want our kids, that push is post-secondary, right? We don't want our kids just to be high school graduates. We want them to be ready for the world, for jobs when they leave. So the big question is why? This all stems from Senate Bill 2124, which states that you have to have an advanced math program in middle school. So what the law is saying is that at the end of 5th grade, looking at STAR, and you can also look at other assessments, 40% automatically would be enrolled in 6th grade in an advanced math course, okay? That is the minimum. That is what, I will be honest with you, that is what everyone is doing in the state of Texas, except for some very innovative districts, and we're gonna be one of those, okay? So here's some facts that when you take college algebra in 8th grade, studies have shown that those students are more likely to attend post-secondary colleges, and they're also more likely to earn industry certification. Another reason for this is that it also gives students the opportunity to take more advanced classes when they get to high school. So they'll take their algebra, then freshman geometry, algebra 2, and then they'll have an opportunity to take 2 math courses. I'm excited about this because think about our new CTE building, the investment that we're putting into STEM, and we're trying to get our kids, to raise that bar in math. So I think that this plan, I'm excited about it. And another reason is because our data in math, maybe not so much at the high school, but the data in the lower grades with this new HQIM curriculum that we're using, it's showing that the scores that the students are coming to the next grade level better equipped. And so, and I know it sounds great, but there's going to be a lot of work that has to come with this, especially those support systems to help our kids be successful with algebra. So, of course, with TMISD, we always want to go above and beyond. And so our goal is not just to teach that top 40% algebra for all. We want to prepare all of our middle school students in 8th grade for Algebra 1. That's our goal.
Because we used to have Algebra 1 in 8th grade, but there was only a certain percentage of kids that took it, correct? When did we stop doing 8th grade algebra? Okay.
2 years ago.
Okay.
And that's right now, because right now at the high school, our students are completing algebra in a semester.
Okay.
So this would actually be a long year course of algebra. So we have a plan of action. This is not just something that we, came up with overnight. There was an engagement process that was involved. We did some research on this. There's also going to be some curriculum implementation that we're going to have to be looking at. And then, of course, number 4 is those immediate next steps, because this is something that we want to start next year. Really excited. So initially with the engagement process, like Mr. Van Matry said, we came together, superintendent, our planning team, which consisted of district team members, CNI, and of course, our principals. Another thing is, Adias has also been talking to her not to her principal, but to her teachers about this. And they're excited. So the conversation is there, and I will say, in talking to another school district that is doing this, I asked them what was the hardest selling point. And they said parents were very eager about it. The students were very eager about it. She said it was the teachers. And I'm like, check, we have that already. So I feel even more positive about moving in this direction. So some of the research that we've been doing, we've been looking at other schools in the state of Texas. And I'm telling you, the only school district that is implementing algebra for all 8th graders is in Socorro ISD. This is their second year. They have over 47,000 students. Their at-risk population overall is over like 53%. 91% Hispanic, and they have seen an 8% increase in their accountability, particularly in math. 8% increase in the meets, and also an 8% increase in the masters. So they're having a lot of success. But again, the success also comes with the support systems that we need to make sure that we put in place.
How long have they had it in place?
2 years.
Okay.
They have had, she said right now, the lady that I've been talking to, they have like maybe just 200 students in that whole district that have not passed the algebra. So they're having a lot of success with algebra for all 8th graders.
Ms. Moody, didn't you do it at your previous district?
East Central ISD, they
Can
still
you
do
talk
it.
about your experience with it?
We saw immediate increases in our special education students. We found that it was a more focused math. And algebra is very stacked. So they start with, they may start with single variable equations, and then by the end they're double variable equations and then functions. So it all kind of stacks on each other. So we found that special education students were able to follow that very well. Additionally, the passing percentage for algebra versus the 8th grade STAR test is much, much lower. And so our kids were able to attain those meets and masters that they weren't able to get because of the high standard of the 8th grade math test, which 8th grade math is a composite of about 5 different types of math: geometry, algebra. I'm missing the other ones, but there's more. And so that was what we found. But we did it in a similar fashion. Our kids, we wanted to avoid the 7th grade math disaster, because the 7th grade math disaster is the 8th grade test just without a calculator, minus about 3 standards. And so the way we scheduled it out, 6th and 7th, and a little bit of 7th, a little bit of 7th, and most of 8th, and then they took algebra there. So we were able to avoid the 7th grade STAR test as well. So it helped our middle school accountability. I believe they still do it, but.
And so a lot of what Kenneth said, I'm going to show you how we're going to be compressing these courses from math. So the impact on completing Algebra 1 by the end of 8th grade, again, a lot of positive impact for that because of the kids, the opportunity to take more classes, the opportunity of that increasing their opportunities for post-secondary education. So there's a lot of good things that will come out of this. Implications for accountability. middle school scores. That was one question we had. If you take the algebra, because it is a high school course, who gets those scores? Those scores would go to the middle school.
Okay.
And so that's where Alvarado is, you would have those retesters. And then they would also have to take another assessment, which would be your SAT or the ACT. So that would be another area that we would have to start providing some support. We're already using HQIM. Currently, we're using Carnegie. This next coming school year, it's gonna change to Bluebonnet Learning. Basically, just taking off the cover and adding our Texas stamp to it. So, and so they have the pacing guide, they have the curriculum to meet the needs of this plan that we're proposing for next school year. And then, of course, the math course plan. What is that gonna look like? Just like Kenna said, that's exactly what we are proposing for the math advanced coursework. So in 6th grade, just like Kenna said, students will learn 100% of the 6th grade math teaks and half of the 7th grade math teaks. And so at the end of the school year, they will take the 6th grade STAR test. In 7th grade, students will learn the remainder of the 7th grade math teaks and 100% of the 8th grade math teaks. And at that time, at the end of that school year, they will take the 8th grade STAR test.
Oh, wow.
And like Kenna was saying, you avoid that 7th grade test. And then when they get to 8th grade, all the students will learn 100% of the high school Algebra 1 teaks. And then at the end of that school year, they will take the Algebra 1 EOC assessment. And so the kids also have the whole year to take that course of algebra. So that's another benefit. Okay. So the next steps, what we want to do moving forward is we want to have some parent meetings for the incoming 6th graders. We want to share this information with parents, let them know what this is going to look like. We want to work with our teachers to plan the compression courses. What is this going to look like? We don't want them coming back at the beginning of the school year, not having any direction. So we want to start preparing them for this. And then also, I think the critical key factor here is being able to provide support, because not every kid is mathematically inclined. I know I'm not. So we're going to have to really talk about what is going to be our plan of action for those students that, may need that additional help. And I like the way when I was talking to Tiffany Heredas from Socorro, she's like, even if you move to 8th grade, you still have kids that are below grade level. Not everyone is on grade level. And that's how we need to look at algebra for all students, that you're going to have those students that need the support. So that's going to be critical when we plan the details of this. And then, of course, the next step is, getting in contact with Carnegie so that we can start preparing the curriculum, give the teachers the opportunity to navigate through that curriculum so that they are familiar, because they're going to be teaching, like I said, 6 and then half of 7. So there's going to be some planning that they're going to have to do. And we want to make sure that we give teachers that time that they need, because it's going to be a lot. And so, at this time, if you have any questions, I have Arias.
Let me ask Ms. Arias to comment, and also Mr. Alvarado, since we're changing significantly how we teach English 1 and Algebra 1 next year compared to how we did it in the fall semester, I want you to brief the board on that a little bit. Ms. Arias, do you have any comments on?
No, I think our teachers are excited. We've already had conversations with them. They're already starting to plan. They're eager. So I think, the buy-in, it's there. We're ready to go.
Mr. Alvarado?
I think with that new state law, this is the best option. Like everyone says, the 7th grade test is the hardest test. So essentially, if you have to take the top 40 and move them up to compress the way we have it compressed, which is the exact same way I did it when I was in GP. It's the exact same model. You're forcing Ms. Arias's group her seventh grade group, the bottom 60%, to take the hardest test, which will tank her overall rating. And then when they get to high school, they're gonna tank mine. That's just the way it is. This way, she gets the safety net. I have other things, I have CCMR, I have graduation rate that helps out my rating. I'm not gonna sit here and say we're gonna get an A, because that probably is gonna be out the window. But we will ensure that she's not gonna she's gonna be an A or B campus. Doing it this way, having that big hit in seventh grade with only the bottom 60% of kids taking it, that's gonna put her probably at a C. There's no way to, so this is the best option for everyone. That's just the way we have to look at it. That state law kind of just came out of nowhere, forces everybody to comply. So we know we sat around here for a good 2-3 hours just hashing out which is the best method. And although it is going to hurt high school, I don't want anybody to think that that's gonna happen. I just have more safeguards in my accountability than she does. So either way, it's a weird situation. But I do like the fact that what it will do for all of our kids is that by taking geometry for everybody in their freshman year, by taking Algebra 2 their sophomore year, and either taking algebraic reasoning or they start the college route, which is they'll take college algebra their freshman, or the first part of their junior year, go to analytic geometry. Then their senior year, they'll take,
Statistics.
no, it's not statistics, analytic geometry, trigonometry, and then calculus.
Oh, okay.
In that another state law, that affects colleges, now, it used to be that you didn't have to, wherever you took calculus, it was a 2,000 level course, they didn't have to take it, they could take it as a math elective. Well, now, if I take calculus through A&M Kingsville, it goes as calculus at A&M College Station. They can't argue that fact. That's why we discourage so many kids not to take calculus, because it was gonna transfer as elective credit, but now it actually goes as the actual. For my other kids, my welders, my nurses, my everybody else, now their senior year, they get to take welding math. They get to take nursing math. They just would have had that opportunity. Now they do. So they could, for whatever associates they have, whatever certification they're getting, now they can take that math with us, sitting in our classroom, as opposed to taking it, when they're 100 miles away. So now they can take it with us, pass that course. It's, for our welding kids, it's the hardest one they ever take. So now our welders will get a chance to be taught by one of our teachers who can then get them through. So it's a win-win for everybody, just not our accountability. That's the only thing that, just be upfront, it's gonna make us suffer. But it does put a lot more options available for our kids.
What are you gonna do with the feelers?
You just answered my question. I was about to ask, you summed all of that up well. Thank you, Ken.
When we talk about next year?
Yeah, this year, as we did last year, we accelerated Algebra 1 and English 1 in a block in a fall semester. You want to talk about the change?
So this upcoming school year, we're gonna offer two different options. Well, not really offer. We're gonna place students in two different classes. If students were successful in their STAR test in 8th grade, they're going to a singleton block of English 1 or Algebra 1 that'll last the entire year. So we will not be accelerating English 1 or Algebra 1 anymore. If they failed, they will go to a block class to get them the help that they need, so on and so forth. So if I failed the 8th grade Algebra 1, or 8th grade math test, then I'll have a block of Algebra 1. One class will be considered the actual Algebra 1 course. The other class will be going back and getting those remedial skills that they lacked for some reason, that they didn't get the opportunity to pass. And we're gonna continue that on throughout the rest of it. So if I'm in English 2, I failed English 1, I'll go on to an English 2 block if I failed. I'll go to a geometry block if I failed. Where we see the biggest pain point we have is that we don't have a good system of remediating kids once they leave that tested area. So if I failed the Algebra 1 test, but I passed the class, I go on to geometry, and there's really nothing there to help me pass that Algebra 1 test. Well, now there will be. By going to this model where not everybody takes a block, the teachers are able, we still have the same amount of teachers, but they'll be teaching that block of geometry so that they can get the skills they need to pass that Algebra 1 test. Because our December scores, I think we had like 23 out of 25 kids fail the Algebra 1 retest. That's unacceptable. We have to do something for those kids to get them to a point to where they can pass. So we're gonna work with them even more. And if it works, then those kids who failed Algebra 1 under her system would go to me, and they'd have that same block class to get them to where they need to be so that they can pass their Algebra 1 test and graduate on time.
And there's no staffing issue. We don't have to hire more teachers in order to run this.
So that is opening up an extracurricular for some students then, or an extra elective course?
Correct.
Or an extra college.
Right,
Yes, later on.
an elective, yeah.
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
The data was showing me that we weren't hitting our meets and masters like we have to hit.
Yeah. I love it that all students are gonna take 8th grade algebra. I think all students should have that opportunity. Will you have different levels of the algebra, or will it be across the board, same algebra class?
We haven't discussed that, but that may be an option.
And we have a
Because we definitely want to like
Right.
There has to be
challenge children,
differentiation.
right?
Right,
There
yes.
has to
Like
be
honors
differentiation.
algebra, we haven't hashed that out yet, but that's something we've thought of.
And we have a meeting
It cannot be
Thursday.
one size fits all.
No.
Yeah, I was gonna say that,
Right,
'cause
right.
not all kids learn the
No,
same
no.
way, and not all kids can accelerate, and there's some that
Right.
are behind. And then if they're with the kids that are accelerating, they get discouraged, and then they say, I don't wanna do this anymore, and they just kinda give up. So you
Shut down.
gotta make sure to have different levels of it for each
And that's where that
one.
support system is going to be critical in our
Yes.
conversation. And so we actually do have a meeting, a team meeting with Socorro ISD to talk about all the other logistics. And so Adias will be on that call, Alvarado, myself, so we can get some more information. And then hopefully from there, have maybe a teacher focus where we can talk to teachers and admin at that campus.
Awesome, great job.
I appreciate the fact that, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I appreciate the fact that this benefits a wider array of students,
yes. I
right?
think it
The
could be a
kids that are going on the
marketing
CTE path, the kids that are going to
Exactly.
college, it's gonna benefit every student.
Right. And it kind of sets us apart, so I think it could be also a marketing, like, to market our district, because this is not something that every district is offering, so I think
To that
could
point-
increase
More-
enrollment.
To that point, you'll be the only school district that offers, every kid could leave here with their college class taken, for whatever college math class taken when they graduate. And that's that's the number one killer of every college freshman, is
Absolutely.
taking that college algebra class alone in their dorm room with nobody to help them. If we can get that out of the way, that would be beneficial to kids.
So would that be-
have a couple of concerns. I want the kids to come in before snapshot, let's say September 25th. They're coming from a school district that does not offer algebra. What do we have planned for those kids?
That's going to be part of our conversation on Thursday.
Yes. Good. Second concern, teachers that are gonna be teaching Algebra 1 in 8th grade. How long has it been since they taught Algebra 1?
They probably haven't.
They haven't.
And that's
All I
what-
want
yeah.
is people to help those teachers, because they're gonna be drowning.
Yes.
They've never taught Algebra 1. All right? And I know they're fired up, oh, yeah, but they're gonna need some help, whether it's from central office or from the service center. They're gonna need some help. They're gonna need a lot of help.
PD is going to have to be a huge component.
The planning, internalizing, those lessons, that's.
Don't let them sink.
No, it's going to be key.
Don't let them sink.
It'll be key.
I think we're extremely lucky in that both high school and middle school principals taught math. So we know what we're looking for when we go into a classroom about what's good instruction and I know Ms. Arias was a way better math teacher than I was back then. So, I trust her completely to get those people where they need to be.
Yes.
I think it is gonna be a shock but it's.
Are they even certified to teach algebra?
We were talking about that today.
Good.
And how many teachers do you have over there to do this?
To do this, I have two and a half,
For how many students?
for 250. That's what we have right now.
That's what we have right now.
Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't change anything.
Are there grants that we could go out for that would help as far as teacher development or?
Well, right now, we do have the LASSO math grant, and so those are some of the funds that we were going to use to provide training for our teachers the second half of the school year, so that they could become familiar with the curriculum and just give them that opportunity, for planning. So we do have some funds that we can use this coming school year. So that is another check that we have going for us, is that we do have the funds for that.
There's two huge curriculum initiatives that's kicking off right now that will manifest itself in July in the primary classrooms and in the middle school classrooms. You've heard this one. Next month, you're going to hear the primary one. They're adopting the Amplify curriculum for reading that we were in year 2 at intermediate. So now we'll have a vertical alignment between what's taught in kinder and what's taught in 3, 4, and 5 that we don't have right now. The reason that we didn't implement that up until next July is primary is what we call self-contained. They teach those babies everything. And we had switched math curriculums, and we just thought it was too much to do reading and math. So now that they're going to complete their second year of the new HQIM math, next year they'll start with Amplify. That training starts immediately.
I think that's a great idea, because wasn't it the intermediate school where we had to back off a little bit for a little
Yes.
while?
Year 1 was
So-
brutal,
Yeah.
yes.
Teachers are doing a great job, they're getting the hang of it, and just doing the classroom walkthroughs, they're implementing, they're using Amplify, so.
Change is hard, and.
Yes.
It is.
But it's time to
is.
get here instead of just right
We
here.
have to get there, and we can't get there by doing what we've done
For
in the
25
past.
years.
But I get excited when we bring this stuff in front of you, because this is academic red meat. Thank you.
Great job, y'all.
Great
Good luck.
presentation. Thank you.
Put that in our notes.
You good?
Academic ready.
All right, the next action item is discuss and consider TM Academic Career Center Targeted Improvement Plan.
Ms. Chapa, this was as a result of a PEAMS mistake.
So yes, basically, Iris and I are going to do this together, but I'll pass the baton over to her. We've been working very closely together on the TIP, which is the Targeted Improvement Plan, and we're also asking tonight for board approval, because we have to submit the TIP plan by the end of the month. And so I'm going to pass it over to Iris. Sure. And we're going to talk about what we've been doing and the targeted.
Y'all did a lot of training over intercession, right?
Yes, we had fun. All right, good evening, and I'm the principal of Tulsa Middle Academic Career Center. So I wanted to explain why we have the Targeted Improvement Plan. It was a PEAMS coding error that resulted in Tulsa Middle Academic Career Center being identified as a traditional campus, as opposed to a non-traditional campus, which is what we are, an alternative campus. An alternative campus has a different way of scoring, so our accountability is affected. And with being labeled a traditional campus, that really, it hurt us in a lot of ways. And so one of the things was that we were labeled as a school in need of improvement by TEA. We could have easily, said, okay, look, this is wrong, make an excuse. But instead, we embraced the challenge, and definitely, I know our teachers and myself, we embrace the opportunity to learn and grow. A small campus excuse does not eliminate the roles crucial to teacher and student success. So we're done making excuses or why this happened and just say, you know what, can only be better for both teachers and for myself as a first-year principal, and ultimately that will lead to success for our students. So moving forward, what have we done? In the fall, we had an academic review where people from the service center, our Effective Schools Framework came in, spent a day on our campus, talked to our teachers, talked to our students, did observations in different classrooms. We submitted some lessons to TEA and got some immediate feedback. For that feedback, we had Miss Kenna Moody was there, Dr. Sham, Mr. Van Maitre. We had a Zoom call and we said, okay, let's look at this and this is what we're going to do. One of the most important things for me was a staff interview. So they met with our teachers and students, teachers and staff. I wasn't there, and they said, what do you see? What do you not see? And what do you need? And the information and feedback I got was very important and very eye-opening. And what is next? Well, the FLIPS focus is some of the meetings. We have 4 meetings. And really what it is a toolbox for instructional coaching. It starts with me. What am I doing? What can I do better? And I tell you what we've been through at the beginning has been really eye-opening for me, and it's just like a toolbox of how to be a great leader. And so with the help of Dr. Sham, who I will tell you in a lot of other districts where you have a targeted improvement plan, the principals on their own to figure this out and go through all of the steps. Dr. Sham has been at every meeting, which Dominique Janway from the Service Center was really appreciative, and I know I am. And we have some 5 milestone implementations that we'll be doing throughout the year, and definitely instructional coaching support, not just for myself, but for our teachers and staff. So our statement of strategy is Tolosa Midway Academic Career Center strategy for school improvement is to implement observation feedback cycles for instruction to increase teacher effectiveness. Our focus is small group instruction to all content areas in order to support at-risk students. One of the things I asked myself, or 3 things, is are we placing the strongest teachers with the highest need students? I believe we are. We have really good STAR success, and these are students that have had multiple failures throughout their years of STAR, and with the intense and small group instruction, we've shown some success. Are we creating conditions for student learning? I'm very proud of the culture that we have created at ACC. That is our students and staff. We all buy in, we all are here for a purpose, and that's to get to the end of the marathon of graduating. So I do believe we're close. But is data being used to effectively analyze and monitor teacher and student performance? And that was a no. And that was an honest look when we talked about the teacher interviews. What did they need? What were they not getting? And one of the main things was we are not getting the instructional feedback. We're not getting the observations like we would like to see. How can we be better as teachers? So that became definitely a main focus for me. We have a couple of interventions. Our first intervention is the implementation of observation and feedback cycles for teacher effectiveness. Our teachers at ACC have been seeing me in the classrooms, a lot of informal walkthroughs with the help. Miss Arias, I'll tell you, I got to go to middle school at the beginning of the year and walk through and see how she does it, and it's immediate feedback, which is extremely important for our teachers. So I'm in there more than I've ever been, and that's great. We are also getting immediate feedback. What are some things I'd like to see? What are some of the great takeaways and the things that they're doing? And it's been very helpful. Our second intervention is to align leadership lesson internalization and instructional materials to rigorous standards. Just because we have APEX, online learning, and credit recovery, doesn't mean that we can't be better at what we're doing. And our teachers understand that. They're excited about the professional development opportunities offered. They have reached out to the high school with the help of Mr. Alvarado. We have our department heads, and they're reaching out to them. What are you doing? How are you providing EOC support? And for students that have failed or have not been successful, what do you do? What are some strategies? There's a lot of collaboration that's happening this year, and it's been very helpful for our teachers. So moving forward, some of the things I want you to know, we're prioritizing instruction and student achievement. We are continuing to maintain our success of having a good culture and also moving towards continuously improving. We don't just want to be good and do our job. We definitely want to grow and be a part of the growth that's happening here at Tolosa Midway. All of the things that we're doing, we're trying to provide for our students on all campuses. ACC is no exception. And we as teachers and myself as a principal definitely want to get better at our trade and always raise the bar for student success. Do you have any questions?
How many teachers do you have on campus?
Yes, sir. We have 4 core teachers.
4?
Yes, sir. And we have 1 instructional paraprofessional.
And how many walkthroughs have you done this year?
3 for each.
For each?
Yes, sir.
And we did some too.
I think there
Yes.
used to be 16. When I walked into the district in 2022. About the same number of students, high 30s, but we couldn't afford that student-teacher ratio.
How many students do you have in there?
We carry about 40 to 45 at the beginning. Right now, we're at about 36 to 38. Yes, ma'am.
They also, she also oversees DAP, which we moved from the shopping center to that area. And just a phenomenal job of leadership by Ms. Chapa. Incredible.
And so is ACC still considered a traditional campus? I thought that was. No.
We
It
went
is?
back.
It's a non-traditional,
Okay, all right.
but,
That's what I thought.
but they forced us because of the coding issue.
Right.
And this is our last year. This is it. After we start.
And ultimately, it's been a great
it's been,
experience
yes.
to
Like
learn.
it's, well, yeah, and it's only gonna make everybody better, right?
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, it is the administration's recommendation that Tolosa Midway ISD Board of Trustees approve the targeted improvement plan as required by the Texas Education Agency Code for the Academic Career Center with the revisions or updates as needed. The plan will serve as a guide to the district and campus staff to enhance student performance and meet state and federal standards.
Okay. You have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Ken makes a motion. Second. Brian makes a second. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Great job. The next one is discuss and consider resolution regarding a public purpose and compensating employees during the district-wide closure due to severe winter weather.
Ms. Riggs?
Good evening, trustees. As you may recall, on January 21st, the coastal bend experienced some inclement weather. Specifically, we had freezing temperatures with precipitation, which leads to slippery, icy roads. In an abundance of caution for our students, our staff, and our community at large, the decision was made to close the district and have a 2-hour delay start the next day, which was January 22nd. As the FSLA calls, since we didn't have school, especially for our non-exempt staff, we technically can't pay them because they didn't work. However, if we find a public purpose for which we should pay them and we bring a resolution to the board, we can pay them for those days. So our public purpose for the resolution is that we want to maintain morale. We don't want to have employee turnover, and really and truly, it's really the safety of our students and parents and community. For that reason, we have a resolution for you today. I'm going to be quite honest, we did pay payroll last week, so payment actually did occur. So this is really for you to ratify that you do find a public purpose for the expenditure to pay all our staff for those days.
Otherwise, it would be a gift.
Or it'd be a gift of public funds.
I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a housekeeping.
Formality.
Yes.
Questions? Yes, let me make the recommendation. It is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the resolution regarding a public purpose in compensating employees during the district-wide closure due to severe winter weather as presented.
Have a motion? Rio. Second.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. I make a motion for Kim to read the resolution.
You can delegate. Haven't seen that done, but.
Here we go.
Sir, I think that would go to the vice president.
Resolution of the Tuloso Mayo Independent School District Board finding a public purpose in compensating employees during the district-wide closure due to severe winter weather. Whereas Tuloso Midway Independent School District is a public school district located in Corpus Christi, Nueces County, Texas. And whereas the recent inclement weather caused by ice and sleet resulted in the physical closure of all schools and facilities in the district on January 21, 2025, and a delayed start on January 22nd, 2025, due to concern about safety of students and staff as a whole with traveling under the conditions. And whereas Tuloso Midway ISD Board Policy DEA Local allows all regular employees to be paid for their regular duty scheduled if the board adopts a resolution or takes other action establishing such a purpose and parameters. And whereas the district's Board of Trustees is authorized by the Texas Educational Code Section 45.105 to expend funds on the district for purposes necessarily in the conduct of the public schools as determined by the board, and will maintain sufficient control over the expenditures to ensure the public purpose is accomplished. And whereas the board finds that paying the salary of personnel during the district-wide closure is necessary to maintain morale among the district's workforce, to reduce employee turnover, encourage the safety of all employees and their children, and fair treatment of employees who could not work due to the affected school operations associated with the IC travel conditions. To avoid the unnecessary expenditures associated with the payment of overtime, should non-exempt employees be asked to make up the workdays missed and reduce administrative costs. And whereas the board finds that the use of public funds to pay the salary of personnel during the district-wide closure on January 21st, 2025 serves as a substantial public purpose. Now therefore be it resolved that all of the above recitals are adopted as findings of fact and are incorporated into and made a part of this resolution for all purposes. Tuloso Midway ISD shall pay all employees who are unable to work on January 21st, 2025 following the district-wide closure in response to icy travel conditions. Tuloso Midway shall pay all non-exempt employees for the hours they would have worked due to the decision to close the district due to inclement weather. The Board of Trustees hereby determines these payments serve a public purpose, retain sufficient control over the expenditures to ensure a public purpose is served, and finds the district will receive a return benefit. Be it further resolved that the superintendent of schools is authorized by the board to take such further action necessary and appropriate implement the intent of this resolution without further board action. Approved, passed, and adopted on this 17th day of February 2025 by the Tuloso Midway Independent School District.
Thank you.
Great job.
Appreciate that for our staff.
Okay. The next item we have here is discuss and consider the resignation of Denise Villalobos.
Mr. President, members of the board, you have a copy of the letter from State Representative Villalobos. And the administration recommends that you take action on the resignation.
Okay. So we have to accept the resignation. Do we have a motion to accept the resignation?
I move that we accept the resignation of Denise Villalobos.
Okay. Do we have a second? Leo.
Or Bonnie, whatever. She raised her hand.
We'll put you down, Marty. We haven't got you down yet, so. All right, so, motion by Mr. Chapa, second by Marty. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. All right, next action item is discuss and consider the two options for filling a board Board of Trustee place 6 vacancy. Appoint someone to fill the vacancy until the next trustee election. Order a special election to fill the vacancy for the remaining term. Any discussion?
Did any of the, I think there were some questions at the last meeting about
Oh, yeah, the cost.
cost and all of that. Do we have any
Chrissy, you
information?
want to talk about what we found out about from the county clerk's office?
Sure. Okay, so going back as far as the election cost from 2021, those costs, the initial.
Well, let's back up, because the other trustees may not be privy to Mr. Gonzalez's request. So we received a request through Ms. Castillo on Friday regarding the costs for the last special election. I replied to Mr. Gonzalez and Mr. Arriaga as president that we would do what we would make an attempt to find out what those costs were in 2021. And the other variable was how many taxing entities were involved in the November 2021, because the more taxing entities, the reduced costs. Then I asked Ms. Castillo to contact the county clerk's office to find out where are we at now? What taxing entities do we know of that's officially going to have an election in November? So I'll let her relay that data to you.
Okay, so starting with 2021, there were 4 entities that participated in the May 2021 election. The initial quote that we received stated that at that time, it would be upwards of 20,000 if we were the only entity participating. However, there were 4 that participated that.
Including TM or outside of TM?
If it was only TM, it would have been upwards of 20,000.
No, when you said 4, does that include TM?
That is including TM,
Okay.
yes.
And 3 others besides
Three
us.
others besides us, okay? After the final invoice to the county, and also including the required newspaper posting, it was almost at 4,000 was our cost to run the election that year. We did get a hold of the Nueces County Elections Office this year, and as of February 5th, there's 2 entities that have signed up for the May election. I still don't have a cost yet because they won't know until,
So we would be number 3?
if we were to sign up, then we would be number 3.
So as of now, we would be splitting it 3 ways. If it was 20,000, it'd be split 3 ways.
If
Whatever
that-
the cost is.
Whatever the
Whatever
cost is. This cost was in 2001, so I don't know what it is now.
Would have been 16.
So I think that, does that satisfy you?
Yeah, no, yes, thank you very much.
And we're closing out the fiscal year with how much of a deficit?
3.5 million.
So I think any dollar that we spend on a special election is not being good stewards of our money personally.
So I mentioned last board meeting that I believe the last 3 board meetings have all been 6-0 votes. I think that it's very likely that this board could come to a consensus on appointing somebody without spending money.
I still don't, I'm sorry, but I don't agree with that. I don't think that we should make that decision. I still feel that our community should make that choice. And I understand that there may be some sort of a financial burden on us, but at the same time, I personally don't feel that I should choose anybody to sit in that chair. I think that the person who should be chosen for that chair is chosen by the community. That's my opinion. That's where I stand.
I guess the only other thing I would mention is that this will be, basically by the time that the election is held, it'll be a 1.5-year term, not a 4-year term. And that person would still have to run again in a 1.5 years.
And we have, in the past few years, appointed a great trustee to sit on this board. So we've seen a board do that before, and appointment went very well.
My opinion I would concur with Marty. I just think that the community, I mean, you know, if it happens to be 20,000, we split it 3 ways, it's 6,000 or 6,500. And if they still have another, probably, maybe not quite a month for it to be another entity, perhaps 2, it would defer some of our costs. I do think it's important that even if it's 500 or 600 people to decide, that they be the ones to say so. I mean, I know we've had consensuses, but we're already differing right now. So I think if somebody chose it for us, it might be easier. And it's who they want. That's my personal opinion again. You know, I know we are in the save money mode, but if you go through the check register, I mean, we're still spending money. You know, nobody wants to cut. And we want to celebrate holidays, we want to do things like that. So we're still spending money that, you know, trying to feel normal. And I think this is an important process in the district. So that's my piece.
So I will give my opinion, which I think when I left the last meeting, I was pro-election. And I think I specifically said I was going to talk to people and talk to other people. And I actually went out and talked to people that, you know, we represent the community. So I got some feedback. I do agree still that the community eventually should make the decision. Where I worry is, or where I differ is, when I say the community's gonna make a decision, there's no doubt that May has extremely low turnouts. So I don't know that, I worry that it's not the community making the decision, not the true community. Because people aren't gonna get out to vote there's no big ticket items, it's just the way people are, right? So, I talked to numerous people, and I've kind of been changed the other way with my thought process on this, is that if we do, a couple things, it's a 1.5-year term, the board is a 6-0 board, it's not like there's a rush to get somebody. If we go to election, it's very short-lived, it's very short time before the election. So at the end, does the message get out? I have to say, I mean, like I said, I'd be honest to myself and be open to talking to people and talking to my constituents and people that I represent and that I talk to regularly that I know voted for me. And most of them, or a large majority of them, were of the fact of appoint somebody or let it stay until the large election. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I know that's a huge change from where I was earlier, but I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot and doing a lot more talking to people than I usually do. And so that's kind of where I'm at. Kind of going the other way from what I said the last time, so.
I haven't changed my mind. Last board meeting, I felt the community should have a say-so, and not us. Let the community voted all of us in. Let the community vote for this person. That's my stand. That's how I stood last month, and that's how I'm gonna stand today, next week, next month, next year. That's the way I feel.
And the community can speak for that seat and many others in the regular election also.
Well, and there is an opportunity, if you choose to appoint, there would be open applications. So there would still be an opportunity for the community to participate.
I just have a question. Weren't you appointed on here for special elections? the
I was
very
not
first time?
appointed.
I mean, not appointed, I'm sorry, you were.
I was
you
the
did a
special election because the board could
In
not.
2021, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
I thought you had got on here through a special election.
Yes, and
as
there's
well.
others sitting on this board right now that ran in that election.
In a special election?
Yeah, I
Yes.
ran against Kim and lost. I mean, it's like she said, that the board could not, the board's first option was to appoint. And even back then, the board wanted to appoint and they couldn't agree. We have a much better working relationship on this board than that board had. Again, I was an outsider looking in. But if I would have won that election, knowing what I know now, a year and a half, I couldn't have contributed. I mean, I could have contributed a little bit because I have a community knowledge and, I mean, it takes you a year just to figure out what's going on. And again, this is just my opinion. To truly figure out what's going on and being able, if you're like me, if you don't have the educational background or like Mr. Chapa is from the education system, he jumps in and he's ready to rock and roll, so. I thought about all those things, I really did, and,
So now what do we do?
so now I think we do motion for each one, and then whatever happens, happens. Then from there, it'll be another decision.
So, but if there's a no decision, if it's a tie, then what do you do?
We status quo.
Well, I mean, don't we have to replace the person by the 180th day?
I would have to get legal opinion on that. I do know that there's districts that's gone beyond the 180 days to the election, but I'm not going to practice law here.
I don't understand.
Make a motion.
Yeah, I guess we'll go through each one and make the motion, we'll go in the order they're here. So, the first one is to appoint someone to fill the vacancy until the next trustee election. So, do we have a motion for that?
I make a motion that we appoint someone to fill the vacancy until the next trustee election.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? 3-0. All right, the next one is, do we have a motion to order a special election to fill the vacancy for the remaining term?
Mr. President, I move that we have a special election to fill the vacancy for the remaining term.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Oh,
Okay.
All those in favor? Carries 3-0, so. Guess we'll have you follow up with legal and find out if we have to fill it by 180 days. I think this board works well together and we can all figure out what's the right answer in the end. But until then, we'll wait to see what the discussion needs to be.
Yes, sir.
And I think this is kind of a prime example, is we don't always agree. I mean, most of the time it is 6-0 because most of it's pretty routine. But there may be some issues where we differ in our ideology or our thoughts. We want to make sure that, not that it's one side or the other, but it's somebody that's, that can break the tie. So,
Very reasonable argument. Okay, the next one is discuss and consider the first reading of TASB Update 124 video.
Mr. President, members of the board, I think this is the first TASB update for Ms. Jimenez. We haven't had a TASB update since you've been on the board. Is that correct, Mr. Chuck? So there's two types of policy updates, legal and local. Legal, you have no discretion. They have to be done. Local, you do. And your organization, which is the Texas Association of School Board, interprets changes in law, both federal and state, and makes policy recommendations for you to consider. There are 8 policy local decisions from employee to fiscal to how we act on school property. 99% of the time, it's been my experience that the board approves the TASB local recommendations as presented. Occasionally, there'll be a controversial one. None of these are. There'll be a controversial one that the board will want to consider local culture and attitudes and make changes that's when there will be some recommendations. That's why there's 2 readings. There's a first reading, there'll be a short video, and then you'll come back, and it doesn't become policy till it's the second time presented before you. Is that fair to say? Okay.
Hello, and welcome to an overview of the local policy recommendations included in Update 124, presented by TASB Policy Service. Several new laws from the 88th legislative session required the Texas Education Agency and other state agencies to develop rules or guidelines to implement the new laws. Update 124 covers recommended local policy revisions to address those administrative code changes that impact local policy. Other recommended revisions cover changes in federal guidance regarding grants, changes to clarify provisions on the development and use of copyrighted works in the district, and changes to address the use of non-tobacco nicotine products on district property. While not covered in this overview, many of the legal policies included in this update were also affected by legislative changes and amendments to state rules that are now in effect. For information regarding those legal changes, review the explanatory notes included with your district's Update 124 materials, located in the Local Manual Updates section of Policy Online. You should always review your district's customized update materials, available in the Local Manual Updates section of Policy Online, for specific policy recommendations. Please remember that legal policies provide the legal framework for key areas of district operations. They are not adopted by the board. After the board acts on the local policies in Update 124, don't forget to log into Policy Online and go to Local Manual Updates to notify us of the board's action. Policy Online makes it easy to keep track of updates and notify us when the board takes action on policies in an update. The revision to CAA Local is recommended to align with changes in federal rules that address disclosure of any violation of federal law in connection with the federal award. Information regarding the federal rule changes can be found in CBB Legal in this update. Policy CDA Local is the district's investment policy. The revisions at Sellers of Investments are recommended to address representatives with distributors of investment pools. The changes also address required registrations for these representatives with the Texas State Securities Board, the Securities Investor Protection Corporation, and the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. Substantial revisions are recommended to Policy CY Local. The changes clarify when the district's intellectual property may be used and who owns intellectual property created by a district employee. Additional recommendations provide information on how district employees can use other copyrighted material, including the use of copyrighted performances and displays as part of instruction. With the expansion of nicotine products, Policy DH Local is recommended for revision. At tobacco and nicotine products and e-cigarettes, text is recommended to include nicotine products, regardless of whether the product contains tobacco, and electronic vaporizing devices. This proposed revision aligns more closely with provisions included in the Model Employee Handbook developed by TASB HR Services. The recommendations in Policy EHB Local were prompted by revisions to the Administrative Code regarding compliance with rules on dyslexia and related disorders. The recommended changes specify that the district needs to also comply with the guidance in the Dyslexia Handbook and the student's admission, review, and dismissal committee decisions. Changes to the Texas State Plan for the Education of Gifted and Talented Students prompted updates to the terminology throughout EHBB Local. Additionally, the Education Code requires districts to have a policy relating to the use of funds for gifted and talented programming. New text at funding is recommended to comply with this requirement. The changes in Policy FFG Local are recommended to comply with revisions to the Family Code and Administrative Code. Under Reporting Child Abuse and Neglect, a new subsection on oral reports is recommended to comply with changes in law. In the Making a Report section, a paragraph has been added explaining that reporting individuals must provide their name and contact information when making a report. The policy continues to state that the identity of a person making a report of suspected child abuse or neglect shall be kept confidential and disclosed only in accordance with the law. In GKA Local, recommended language prohibiting electronic vaporizing devices has been added to the tobacco and e-cigarettes section to address the widespread use of those devices. That covers the local policies in Update 124. We hope you find this overview helpful. Should you have any questions or want further clarification, please contact your assigned policy consultant, and don't forget to notify us of board action on this update using Policy Online.
So that's the summarization of the 8 local policies for first readings. If you need any clarifications moving forward before we have the second reading, please let me know and we'll get that to you.
I thought they had added those e-cigarettes vaping stuff last year.
Glad they're there.
Absolutely.
Certainly now.
That's all we have.
Okay. The next one here is discuss and consider approval of consent agenda informational items. First one, check payment register. Questions, comments?
I do. I noticed there was a lot of, I'm assuming this is bond stuff, instruments,
Yes.
right? That's
Yes.
probably.
There was $750,000 earmarked from the bond.
Okay.
I think they've exhausted everything but about 72,000.
Remaining
Yes.
after this? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's good. Another thing is I saw, and I don't know if the Booster Club is reimbursing us for the football banquet. Is that something that the Booster Club takes care of? Or no?
Or is activity, I don't know how we funded that.
It's like $7,200 for,
Do you know if that comes from the activity fund?
Yeah, it was from football activity, but that was the one where, was that the one they had at the country club?
Yes.
And, yeah, that comes out of activity, football activity.
$7,200.
So we paid for that?
Not out of public funds.
No, it's money they
It's
raised.
money the sport raised for their activity. Through fundraisers usually.
sorry, I'm good.
Good? Anybody else? The next one is January 2025 financials. Nobody?
I do have a question. On the general fund, Philip, we have, we're at, 41.67%. Investment income shows us a 22% year-to-date. Are we expecting that to increase because of the bond issue, the new bonds that we're gonna issue,
No.
or is that not gonna meet expectation?
No, we're probably not gonna meet expectations on that
Okay.
one. Because since our general fund balance is lower, we're not gonna earn as much interest. Because the bond money is in another
It keeps-
account,
it
and
keeps- okay,
its
I
interest
got you.
is recorded in its fund.
On account.
And I know last year you had said that you were gonna project ADA, you were gonna kind of dumb it down or not be
Right.
so aggressive with your projection.
ADA, I said we were gonna match the same ADA, and then I think I just maybe lowered it was the same enrollment, but we did lower it to what the ADA was the previous year.
Okay. Because I think last year at this time, I think we're up by 5 students from January. I just wanted to make sure we were not.
Dropping lower.
Right.
Right.
Actually, I think that's 17 for today.
I haven't looked at what today's is. Our snapshot enrollment was 35 more than it was the year before.
Okay.
That was that, October.
I know you did 2 things. You projected revenue based on last year's attendance and last year's ADA.
Correct.
And I guess our board meeting was on 2/12 last year. That's the number I was looking at. So, and this one says February 6th, but it's probably higher today than.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And it was higher at snapshot.
Anyone else?
What are all the Amazon purchases? I mean, there's like $12,480 worth of Amazon. Like, what exactly is all of that?
We buy lots of stuff from Amazon. It could be office supplies. There's a lot of instructional materials and things for the classroom, athletic supplies stuff. I mean,
So who has access to be able to use all that? Is it like every teacher has an access, like a card to purchase on Amazon, or?
It's, the teachers don't make the purchases. They can put their requests into the office or the department. Every campus and every department can order from Amazon.
It goes through the procurement process, and it requires the appropriate signatures before it gets purchased.
Yeah, Amazon is
Pretty hot place to shop, huh?
wide variety. It's usually really good price, and they ship like right away.
Yeah.
They come to my house every day.
That was wrong.
He totally called you out in front of everybody.
Anybody else? All right, the next one is declare surplus items. Nobody? Enrollment report. All right, last one is regular and special called board meeting minutes. All right.
Mr. President, members of the board, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda items as presented.
I'll make that motion that we approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second?
I'll second.
Mr. Chapa. All right, all those in favor? Carried 6-0. Future meetings, March 17th, 2025, regular board meeting. It's now time for adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make that motion.
Kim? Second? Yeah, we have to keep it. Chapa. All those in favor? Kim messed it up.
Did I mess it up? I messed it up.
That's it.
Flip it.
6-0.
I still adjourn though.
We'll get back on track next time. It's 8:55, meeting adjourned.